Am I the a-hole for calling my aunt a creep and outing her as a homewrecker? To preface, I, 27 female, have an aunt that is 55 female. Let's call her Susie. I've never been very close to her, as she constantly torments me and picks on my looks. And when I was 20, she bullied me into an eating disorder. Despite all these things, I stayed cordial to keep the peace in my family. However, last week was my breaking point. For backstory, Susie has 2 daughters, 18 and 14, who are still teenagers. It is known amongst the whole family that since Susie's divorce in 2016, she neglects them badly. She doesn't cook, doesn't keep groceries at home for them, and my cousins have even confided to me that she refuses to buy them new clothing. Despite my differences with Susie, I drop off home-cooked meals to her daughters, will give them hand-me-down clothes, and offer to help them out with schoolwork. Most of the times during my drop-offs, Susie would be on her way out but would always remember to make a jab at me, whether it be what I was wearing or even how my makeup was done. I usually brushed it off, as aggravating as she is. One day in particular, her eldest daughter confided in me that she wanted to move out because she couldn't deal with Susie anymore. She would yell constantly, and make her daughters clean all day, and scream if it weren't up to her standards. In addition, Susie was going on multiple dates a week, with different men, one of which was married with a 1-year-old baby. It was 15 years younger than her. Now, I'm not one to gossip, but I told my cousin that if she needed anything, that I would be there for her, and went back home. The following week was my brother's 18th birthday. I'm newly engaged, and my fiancé and I made our way to my mother's home, where a small get-together was held. In total, there was around 25 people, including Susie and her daughters. Cue my breaking point. Susie was ogling at my fiancé the entire time, 27 male. He mentioned that it was creeping him out a bit, and we decided to make our way to the opposite side of the family room. Susie didn't like that. I decided to raise her voice and proclaim to my fiancé in front of the entire family that it must be tiring to be with me, and that when he finally got sick of me, he could get with her because she's a cougar. I was livid. Without hesitation, I told her, "You can fool around in your free time and break up marriages all day, but you will not disrespect my fiancé and I. You absolute creep and sorry excuse of a mother." The entire room went quiet, and she got up right then and there and took off with her daughters. My family actually supported my reaction and told me that they'd been wishing someone would finally tell her off. I do feel bad because I did cause a scene at my brother's party and told everyone what my cousin told me in confidence. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before the little update. Not the a-hole. She had it coming. Years of mistreatment and torment will bring anyone to breaking point. And if she doesn't like the truth, maybe she needs to question her actions instead of going after everyone else. What she said was incredibly tacky, and she was expecting you to brush it off like normal. Instead, you bit back. The fact that your family are agreeing with you says it all too. Don't feel bad. You finally had enough, and I doubt she will try much again. Please call CPS on her. Yeah, she's not acting in a way that is safe or healthy for anyone around her. Not a-hole in any sense, but please take the necessary, yet frustrating difficult, action to rectify this messy situation. Thank you, Opie, for having the heart and moral fortitude to bring this up to the community though, because we truly care about you and your well-being. Not a-hole. That was probably your brother's favorite present. Susie didn't like that and decided to raise her voice and proclaim to my fiancé in front of the entire family that it must be tiring to be with me, and that when he finally got sick of me, he could get with her because she was a cougar. Like, you could literally pretty much respond any kind of way and I would still say not a-hole. If your aunt doesn't like being called a creep and a homewrecker, maybe she should stop being a creep and a homewrecker. It would have been awesome if Opie's fiancé would have given her a look that says, ew. Now for the little update. To those concerned about CPS, I contacted Susie's ex-husband. He's actually a good man, and now his daughters are staying with him and are in safe hands and quite happy. Susie had a meltdown following what happened, and without hesitation let her ex-husband take her daughters and all their belongings. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my brother his actions led to his kids not speaking to him, and I won't sit by and let him talk crap about them? My brother ruined his relationship with his kids when they were still young. Part of me was understanding of his struggle for a while, but that ended a while ago. Background: he was married to Sarah, had Jesse Lee and Cole, but when they were 7 and 8, Sarah died. A year later, he met and married Marion. Marion had Jake 11 and Macy 4 at the time, but Jake was a troubled kid. I can't go into it all here, but 3 years into their marriage, Jake went to a residential treatment facility for mental health. The 3 years before were hell on the household, and my niece and nephew never forgave their dad for exposing them to Jake for so long, and then expecting them to want Jake back home with them all. They fought for a long time over it. Jessie Lee once told me Jake was scarier than all the bad guys in horror movies combined to her. And her dad always told her he was family, that he loved her and her brother and they loved him, so it would be okay. When the kids turned 18, they stopped talking to my brother. They still talk to the rest of the family, which pisses him off. He started telling us how selfish they are, how they simply don't like that you were married, that they're punishing him for finding love again, etc. It's their fault things are so broken because they were unwilling to understand. I called him out every time I heard something, but yesterday while dropping off something at our parents' house, he decided to push back. So I told him it was his actions that led to this, and that I won't let him talk bad about kids because they did not deserve what he let them go through. He is now accusing me of dogpiling on him, and saying I never liked that he moved on from Sarah. She and I became friends while she and my brother were dating, and that I should be more sympathetic to him and Marion. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. It sounds like Jake was pretty horrible, and though he was suffering with mental health, it seems like your brother didn't protect his kids from him and didn't take their feelings into account. Do I think Jake should have been banished for having issues? No. But it sounds like he caused your niece and nephew some trauma on top of their mom passing, and it sounds like your brother didn't do anything to help or protect them. You were simply being honest about the situation. I think what in part made it worse was he expected them to love Jake, to want Jake back and act like nothing had happened. Had he not expected that and understood that they were glad he was no longer in the home, maybe it could have been something for the kids. But he didn't, and he hated how happier they seemed after. He failed to protect his own kids from someone with a major mental health issue and pushed them to like that person. Of course they want no contact. He failed his kids. Not the a-hole. You told your brother the truth and he didn't want to hear it. He sounds like someone who never takes responsibilities for his actions. Rather than acknowledging the role he played in the situation, he thinks it's acceptable to trash talk his own kids. The truth is, he chose his marriage and stepkids over the mental health and safety of his biological children. He was their only parent left. His main priority should have been to protect them and remove them from any situation that was physically or emotionally abusive. He was talking about your niece and nephew that way and you corrected him. For 3 years, he saw issues with Jake and didn't address them or try to protect his kids, then expected them to go through it all again. He cared more about making things work with his new family than to care for his actual children, using the family excuse for inaction on his part. I don't fault his kids at all. I feel bad for Jake as well. He clearly needed help and didn't get it for years. Part of the problem was no amount of regular help was enough. He was full of anger after the death of his father, and that anger was not something love or regular therapy could help. And it couldn't be helped when he was around people who seemed to make the anger flare worse. His mom, my brother, and my niece and nephew especially. I feel like Marion wanted to keep him home and try to help him there, which is understandable. But my brother essentially put his well-being first. But then, and this is something I think that pushed the lack of contact now, he expected my niece and nephew to have love for Jake, and didn't like their ease and happiness that he was no longer in the home. But from the second they were introduced to him, there were all these severe issues, and yet he expected a familial and sibling love for him. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to see my dad even though he is really sick? I'm 2 years older than my brother. When I was about to go to college, they said they didn't have the money and it massively messed up my plans, because they have a high income so I can't get aid and scholarships. I moved out. I started working because I want to save up before going to college, and I started college the same year as my brother did. I always assumed my brother was loading up on debt by going to a really expensive private school. But then I saw a story he posted, bragging about having his schooling paid by our parents. I texted him and he said it was just bragging online. But I asked Mom and she's not a good liar, and she fessed up that they were paying for it. It still makes me really freaking angry. I have better grades, I have a better application, but all of that doesn't matter. Nothing I ever do matters. I've not visited home since that day. I worked so freaking hard for my grades, so I just don't understand why they don't care. I did all the right things and they still care more about my brother. Now my dad is sick. He has cancer and it is pretty bad, so my mom is begging me to come back and see him. He is upset too. My brother called me and yelled at me for being a horrible daughter who is a greedy witch. I'm worried sick for him, but I can't put myself through visiting him. I'm just barely holding on emotionally, but I know they need my support, but I am being a huge a-hole by not doing it. Not an a-hole. Your parents treated you as if you were lesser than your brother. You have no obligation to see your dad. I agree, but Opie seems like a compassionate person, and not seeing her dad may be something that will haunt her down the line. Opie, you are not an a-hole whatever you decide, but really think about the long-term impact on you. Possibly there is a half measure of sending your dad care packages and cards, but not engaging fully so that you don't get caught into becoming a main caregiver, or offering blanket of forgiveness that you are not ready to give. Then you can look back with fewer regrets since you showed compassion and kindness. This is a really compelling argument. Opie is not a-hole by any stretch of the imagination, but I also feel that specifically avoiding their father in this cancer-related situation could have psychological implications down the line. I recommend attending a therapy session before deciding fully. Best of luck. Not an a-hole. What your father is experiencing is the consequence of his own lies and favoritism. That family's toxic, and your brother's downright mean. Greedy? That's first-rate psychological projection there. Do what's best for your mental health. You might want to check out the sub r/estranged adult child. And regarding the Redditors who think you'll be racked with regret later, the red flags are all over this. Opie will likely be subjected to more verbal and emotional mistreatment if she goes. Edit. Another thought. These relatives may be trying to hit Opie for free labor. Nothing in the description says he's on his deathbed. If the doctors decided he had 6 months to live, then he would qualify for hospice assistance. Right now, he's just pretty sick. Which can mean they want help with bed pans. Bad thing. Rides to medical appointments and they don't want to pay professional. Maybe because daughters don't deserve an education, but it's a daughter's duty to pitch in when the parents' health fails. Those two outdated beliefs often go together. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for literally being the cause of my brother canceling his wedding because I couldn't get over the fact it was child-free? Plus, a little update. I-17 female originally was meant to be a bridesmaid at my brother's, 25 male, wedding in 2020, but they canceled when my sister-in-law found out she was pregnant. There was no talk of a wedding till 2 weeks ago when they surprised us by saying they were legally married, but we'll have an official wedding with family and friends at sister-in-law's aunt's mansion to save money for the honeymoon. I was excited, even though that sister-in-law was going to ask me to be maid of honor when she and my sister, 25 female, asked to talk to me alone. Well, no. I wasn't maid of honor or even invited. Apparently the aunt said kids weren't allowed at her mansion, but she'd allow my sister's daughter, Flower Girl, and my brother's baby to be at the ceremony for 20 minutes, so they could take pictures, then they had to leave or she would shut down the wedding. They explained since it's a child-free wedding, and I was technically a child, lol, I wouldn't be allowed to attend anyway. So they decided I'd babysit along with a bride's 16-year-old cousin, a total of 9 kids as a way of being involved in the wedding without being there. My sister-in-law had got to tell me she'd even count it as a wedding gift if I would take a few days off school to babysit while she's on honeymoon. I honestly couldn't speak due to the shock, till my sister suggested I should take their kids overnight because they'll all be hung over the next day. I screamed, no, 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 I'm not your nanny. Don't ask me to ever babysit again ever. Screw you and your kids, before busting out crying. My parents came into the room demanding to know what happened, so I told them and they were pissed. My dad said I wasn't their slave, and he was sick of them treating me as such. Then my mom said if they even attempt to pressure me in any way to babysit again, they wouldn't pay anything towards the wedding. We all got into a massive fight. My brother told my parents not to go to the wedding, and my sister claimed I was the favorite so she isn't on speaking terms with them either. The wedding ended up being cancelled because the other girl wouldn't babysit alone, so no childcare, and they were counting on the money from my parents for multiple things. My brother texted me today, I hope you're happy, you little witch. This is all your fault. You ruined my wedding all because you couldn't accept it was child-free. You're pathetic. My sister texted me similar stuff all day, blaming me for being petty. And if anyone is wondering, my siblings are twins. Now for the comments before the little update. Not a hole. If in their eyes you are too young to attend a wedding, then you are too young to babysit. They didn't want you to come because they wanted a free babysitter. They should hire one and simply stop being so entitled. They can have it both ways. They claim you're a child so you can't attend a child-free wedding, but you're adult enough to supervise 9 children for days? It missed multiple school days to accommodate as well. Child-free weddings generally mean 12 and under, unless it's a venue that has an age restriction for insurance or legal purposes. In our aunt's home, there's no difference between you attending now or after your next birthday, other than they just wanted to use you and don't care about you celebrating their marriage with them. Lol, no. If the wedding was actually going to happen, they would have hired babysitters and paid them. This is not on you, and you're being used as a scapegoat. Now for the little update. So I showed my parents the text a few hours ago. Well, my dad yelled my brother's ears off about a grown man harassing a child till my brother hung up on him. My sister ended up coming over with her crocodile tears, trying to play victim about feeling overwhelmed with the kids and missing my parents. She didn't look at me once when she cried about no childcare or her mental health. My parents told her it's 100% my decision, and they'll support me either way. I told her I will never ever babysit again even if there's an emergency, and if they think about just dropping the kids off, I'll call CPS. I'm done trying to be their sister. I don't wash my hands of both of them. My sister called me a selfish witch, and my mom said she was disappointed in my sister for all this mean girl BS, and that she needed to leave. My sister-in-law rang about 20 minutes ago apologizing, and said in 2 weeks when everyone is more calm, she'd like to host a dinner so we can all make up and be a family again. My parents are going, because I want them to make up with my siblings for their own sake. But as for me, I think I'll have plans that night.